Yeah. Um, yeah, the only hang up is if um, you start talking about something else that's happening and I'm not quick enough to jump around to that. But if you're quickly talking about something in top lane, then just go happen something like over in top lane and then Okay, this is another installment of Canadian Corner. This time I am joined by my teammate Feldroff as we cast a game of Season 10 NGS between BeefBois and Tricky Gooses. Hello Feldroff, and I believe you have some stats and info to go over between this matchup between these two teams.
Hey Liddell, glad to be joining you. My Canadian brother from the Southern American correspondence I've done previously. But yeah, this is going to be an exciting matchup. This is a new team, at least in this combination of players in BeefBois, and then Tricky Gooses have been around for a couple seasons. They were in B East last time, and they've moved up to A East along with a number of other teams, including our team. And so I think not much was known about how BeefBois is going to perform, but they've performed extremely well so far this season. They've won both of their matchups previously, one with a 2-1 win and then one with a domination. So they're sitting right now in second place with one less game played than the current first place team, which is Caffeinated Knights. So really early in the season, so too early to say anything, but definitely looking good so far. And then Tricky Gooses is right now sitting close to the bottom, very low. Not many games played. They're looking to pick up their first couple wins, so hopefully. So we'll see what happens tonight.
Okay, great. We're moving into the draft now of Game 1. Let me just move over to the draft screen here. Cursed Hollow, which was picked, I believe, by the no, that would be picked by BeefBois, because Gooses has first pick here. I think this is from what I know about the Gooses, is they like this map. They like the ability to play around macro-wise, play around with a few off-meta team comps. And Cursed Hollow really allows for that because of the kind of slow turn-on for objective over the 3 different tributes. And also the 2 boss plays allows for a lot of different kind of sneaky maneuvers to be pulled throughout the game.
Yeah, totally. I think that this is interesting. We've seen teams go macro play, and we've seen teams go like early team fight wins to secure the first objectives and hopefully carry that through the rest of the game. That may be BeefBois' plan, is to go more macro. The only game they've lost has been on Volskaya, which is more team fight heavy. So we'll kind of see what each team's action plan is as they progress, starting with a Mephisto and a Cho'Gall ban on each side, respectively.
Yeah, I'm interested to see the Cho'Gall ban this early. I mean, BeefBois probably just don't want to see it at all, but I don't believe... No, Gooses have pulled out 1 Cho'Gall so far this season, so there would be tape on that, but I don't believe they won that game.
They have not yet, but Cho'Gall is so strong right now, sitting at the top of the win rates across all player levels currently. If you look at statistics on Heroes Profile, and some targeted bans coming out from Tricky Gooses. BeefBois have played Mephisto twice and Falstad twice as well. Falstad trying to nip some of that macro presence on this map in the bud, and a Diva ban the first week she's available. I think everyone's just a little scared at what each team is going to pull out with her. They don't have a lot of competitive play testing around her yet.
Yeah, I mean, obviously everyone's seen her bit in Storm League, but yeah, probably afraid of what kind of combos people might have built in their back pocket over this week to kind of use with her.
The Diablo being picked up on the side of Tricky Gooses, that's one of the 2, I guess, primary meta tanks, I'd say, right now, out of Diablo and ETC. None of them were banned, so we'll see if the ETC gets picked up on the side of BeefBois here. And there we go. There it is. Along with the Hanzo, who I think has gotten stronger in the meta right now. So both strong picks.
Yeah, interesting that both teams let both the 2 meta tanks through at this point. But also, I think both realizing that they'll get one of them if they both let them through, and so that's what's played out.
Makes sense. Tyrande really strong, really good for vision on this map, and then Greymane really consistent, great macro presence, great team fight presence. So right now I think they're looking to see, let's make sure that we can secure camps, we can get them running at the right time, and get our macro play on point, but we really want to win these early team fights with a high damage output healer, single target, and then also a lot of CC and damage with Greymane Diablo.
Yeah, interesting. I like the Tyrande pick. I don't know if Carpe's had a lot of history on Turande, but I think Turande's been recognized a lot more for her W build in recent weeks. Just for the kind of CC and like damage setup it allows for the rest of the team. So that's definitely a lower healer, lower heal output healer, but that's a mouthful. But definitely the CC, the slows, and obviously the stun provide a lot of kind of crowd control.
Yeah. Your L banned out for BeefBois against Tricky Gooses. That's a direct ban against Wise, who loves to play your L. I think Tricky Gooses, BeefBois is looking for some burst damage here, as well as potentially their healer pickup, trying to save that offlaner pick to potentially counter whatever. Oh, they picked it up now. But there's the Lucio and Dahaka for the global presence. If Tricky is going to take away Falstad, they're going to pick up their own global.
Yeah, we see the complete opposite of Turande, which is Lucio, which is a massive sustain healer, but not a lot of CC presence other than his trait on walls. So we're kind of seeing the opposite team fights opposite teams kind of build out here. A more bursty build for Gooses and a more sustained build team comp for BeefBois.
Yeah. I see BeefBois going for the long game here with their comp. They could pick anything from a more sustained character like Gul'dan and just try to outlast the Turan's mana, or they could go for a Li Ming or a Chromie here and try to be able to poke out the objectives and force the game longer while Dahaka gets more soak value. So we'll see what they pick up. Kel'Thas, interesting. So, this makes sense. They have a pretty good CC setup. HEC power slides in, Dahaka gets the stun, followed by the Kel'Thas stun, or vice versa. And then Hanzo can follow up with his damage, which is aided by the fact they're standing still. And then I really see a pretty crazy burst, maybe CC chain coming on the side of Tricky Gooses with the wall setup on Leoric, followed by Diablo's, RQE combo setups with Tron stun, Greymane's damage, Sylvanas silence. There's just a lot going on that side, so we'll see what happens.
Alright, well, I normally ask my other co-caster this, put them on the spot. Between the two teams based on team comp only, which one do you prefer right now for this map?
Just in terms of, aggression and meanness, I think Tricky Gooses has a team fight advantage and pretty decent macro. They're going to be slower on rotates, but they have great camp pickup. They have great boss clear. They have great lane presence. BeefBois has perhaps the harder to execute comp, and when executed, maybe just as much damage, but probably a little bit less. So I think I'm going to go with Tricky if they can win it early.
I would agree that I think it's definitely Tricky's game to win early here. In terms of they want the first 3 objectives easily. And if they're not getting that, I feel like the BeefBois has damage that outscales a little bit, at least in the mid game. I think Hanzo takes a little while for his damage to come online, but once it's online, I love the poke from him that he provides. That really no other character in this game has a poke equal to him.
Yeah.
So which can play a big factor in long team fights over a tribute.
Totally. Well, introductions on the left, I've got on the side of BeefBois in blue, you see Dirk on Lucio, Dazed on Dahaka, Root Beer Guy on Kel'Thas, Tribulation on ETC, and Smork Killer on Hanzo.
Alright, I'm going to take care of the Gooses here. We have Carpe Diem on the Turande. We have the Nani on the Greymane. We have Duck on the Diablo. And we have Wise down on bot lane on the Leoric. And I've missed Birdie on the Sylvanas up here, top lane.
They went for a top wall. They got, about 3/4 of its health down. And Birdie just decided to stay on that lane, poke it down a little bit while everyone else goes to their respective lanes to get soak. And Tried to get the game started.
We have an early bruiser camp by BeefBois, but Tyrande did get sight on it, so they are aware that it's happening, but it doesn't look like they want to go for early aggression and try and steal that bruiser camp.
Second owl hit on Kel'Thas and really taking that damage. Go ahead rotating ETC down just in case, but that's going to lose some soak here in mid lane potentially, and you see that kind of showing up in the XP as Tricky pulls ahead just a little bit, just a smidge, but a little bit can turn into a lot pretty quickly.
Yeah, that was a good fake out because they kept throwing the owls there, even though they knew they were doing it, just to keep BeefBois honest, and they ended up drawing all four members to go and do that camp for fear of an invade, which allowed Gooses to stay in lane and also get the siege camp while they're at it.
Totally. See Nani and Carpe picking up the bruiser camp on the right side. That's leaving pretty light wave clear against this bruiser on mid lane, which they're having to spend Carpe to go help with. But they're going to take a lot of damage in the meantime. Ooh, flip over the wall from the Diablo on the ETC. ETC is just going to walk out. They don't really have the damage followed up. But they're going to lose pretty much all of their wall, which is not what you want to see this early on. And they picked up their bruiser camp maybe a little bit too early to get a ton of value. It's just now proctoring the objective, and so you've got probably another 10 seconds before it would have been an optimal time to cap it. So I think this will just get cleared right up.
We will see. We also have the macro value top, which we'll see how that plays out in this tribute here, with Dahaka up top being able to use his global to get down on time.
Really. Sylvanas going rotating down, ETC clearing the bruisers, still having it pushed in all the way to the wall. The camp just captured, which is super great for the side of BeefBois because of the objective being bottom. And we'll see if this is just a free cap. Looks like it might be. Hanzo with a too late side of Tricky Gooses. First objective, no contest.
That's exactly what the Gooses need here, as they really want to get the first 3 caps before ults turn on and really Hanzo's build turns on.
And they wanted to get top lane as quickly as possible because that camp's pushing. The best thing for BeefBois there would have landed interrupt and let that top camp get value before Dahaka would have to come down and help delay. But that's not going to happen.
And now they get a full rotate up with 3 of their members to kind of clear this out. And no camps will be up for the next tribute as they were all taken relatively early, but on time for the first tribute.
This is a really easy camp for BeefBois to defend, it being right near their wall. We'll see how advantageous this is. With the more aggressive team, Tricky Gooses is stepping up and saying, hey, you got to back off. You just don't have the team fight to contest us right now, so we're going to exploit that advantage as much as we can.
Gooses gained a positional advantage though, pushing them out and separating the Haka top. So they're actually a bit split, BeefBois, as they go into this objective.
Duck knows he has a wall on that corner right there. It looks like they're going in for the delay. Dahaka's rotating in, stun on the ETC. ETC flip back and blow up on the ETC with the follow-up stun by the Tyrande. That's amazing. So Dazed has to back out. He has to also pop his healing. Hanzo and Kel'Thas and Lucio backing up on the left side. Duck going for the channel. Doesn't look like there's going to be a delay. He misses on the scatter arrow. Wise almost spreading the bomb, but actually spreads it just after the objective was capped. That's another pickup for Tricky Gooses. Number 2 for 2.
That's so far this game is going about as well as you could hope if you're a Gooses fan. We can have a longer discussion throughout this game and see if my kind of initial theory is proven right. It's not often I've seen both ETC and Diablo in the same game together. Most teams don't let them both through. But my initial thought is that Diablo is actually good into ETC because ETC is one of the squishier tanks in the game in terms of pure health pool. And Diablo is all about stun comboing and locking down the ETC for a period of time, allowing his team to burst him down. Kind of shutting down the mobility that keeps ETC alive usually.
ETC works well against Diablo as a counter-engaged tank. Oh, it looks like oh wow. Bad rotate by the Kel'Thas, gets picked up by the Diablo, but there's really no follow-up, so they're just going to have to back right out. Nani's taking some damage, has to back out. Just letting Duck get away. And Gooses is not in position for this, although they're trying to rotate and get here in time. Duck is out of position and split, but he can engage. Still taking a lot of damage. But Dazed is out of position, has to pop his heal. Duck tapped. He's looking to re-engage. Kill on Wise. This is quite an unusual team fight we've got going on here. Stun on the Grey Mane, followed up by the damage on Kel'Thas. Looks like Tricky Gooses has had enough. They're just going to let this one go.
That might be the smart play to just give that there. Diablo was separated the entire fight, and they kind of rely on him to set up the engage, at least until Entomb comes online, which it just did for Leoric.
I kind of wish they had made the effort, if they felt like they were not going to die, to delay it a little bit longer. They got 10s first, and that would have been a guaranteed curse and guaranteed win on that team fight. But alas, the next tribute will be up. Both teams still have 10, and it's going to rely on a changed team dynamic as they both have ults to burn for this next team fight. Looking at ults, it looks like Entomb by the Leoric, Wailing Arrow by the Sylvanas, Curse Bullet, and by Greymane, and Apoc by Diablo on the side of Tricky Gooses.
On the side of BeefBois, we have not Dance, we have Stage Dive actually. We have Phoenix, which is a great zoning tool on this map. We have the Sound Barrier from Lucio as expected, Isolation from Dahaka, and Dragon Arrow from Anzo.
Isolation's an interesting choice because they're trying to follow up their CC chain. Wow. Okay, Stage Dive going out, but he's by himself. ETC has been captured. Diablo, he gets out with his power slide, stunning Diablo on the way out. They're fully zoned, the rest of the team. Hanzo trying to get in place for a poke, not even close. S is a tribute on the side of Tricky Gooses.
It looks like BeefBois planned to give that that entire time, because the hacker didn't even think about burrowing up, unless it's down, but I don't think it was down. So pretty much a give all the way for the side of BeefBois.
Tricky Goose is really devoting too many resources to clearing that camp mid. That's exactly what BeefBois wanted. They're like, hey, we got the camp. You're going to already spend some of your time clearing. Let's just let you waste some of your time clearing that bruiser and get less value out of this curse. However, that being said, they're getting pushed in on bottom. They already took top 4, and they're devoting team fight resources mid, so we'll see how this goes. Apoc out on ETC, stun, flip, looks like nothing's going to happen. Sound Barrier goes out from Lucio, and the team's just back up. No contest.
So what would you consider a win for BeefBois at the end of this curse?
Honestly, losing as few structures as possible. I think Tricky Gooses wins this an early game. They needed to win the first tribute, which they did, but they needed to get a lot of value with the first tribute. Now they're getting value mid now because apparently BeefBois decided to let that wave push in. So I think they're actually going to take mid. Tricky's trying to take boss. They just say, hey, we know we have better team fight. We can't let them get a macro soak advantage, which is their benefit. So we need to keep rolling this advantage that we know we can propagate. And so right now they've got Bosch pushing a keep. That's really smart. It's the lane that they took the fort in. It's also the lane they pushed in originally, so you can think about that initial play. Stage dive in on ETC. He's really low. It looks like he's going to go down. That was really good on the side of Tricky Gooses. That stage dive just isolating a little bit, letting them know exactly where he's going to be. Stun on Dahaka flip, and Unstoppable is out, and he's down 2 with the Greymane follow-up. This is probably another boss for Tricky Gooses.
Yep, it looks like they're going to go for it, which is... it looks risky based on their health bars, but Tyrande actually has excellent PvE healing when there's no teamfight happening. So they should be able to maintain health bars, and all of the BeefBois are top, saving their keep top. That was an excellent play by Gooses. They got their boss right when they needed to as Curse was ending, and honestly that was a risky call by BeefBois to do their own boss. I would have liked a more conservative play, maybe just clear their own boss, clear the boss coming top lane and kind of reset, because honestly they got out of that with only losing a fort and a lot of damage on 2 other forts, and having a kind of neutral tribute game for the setting up.
Duck doing a really suspect charge in there, having to use his Unstoppable medallion to get out. Takes a lot of damage, but he's a full souls Diablo, so that doesn't mean much. Getting healed by the Tyrande as she just attacks the wall and uses it to buff her team's healing. Like you said earlier, she's a great out-of-combat healer, and she can auto-attack in combat healer, even though her output is a little low, just because she relies on those AAs to reset that cooldown instead of healers like Malfurion or maybe White Mane, who require damage against enemy team members to really turn on their healing.
Goose is electing to go for their Bruiser camp instead of being on time early to this tribute. Kind of a interesting call considering the global pressure coming out onto Wise here.
Stun combo on Wise. Couldn't use his play his character. Dragon Arrow and the Stage Diver both used, but it secured the kill, so it was worth it. Wise will be back sooner than a normal kill would have allowed for, but this is 2 curses stacks to 0 on the side of BeefBois, so they're really hoping to turn this game around just with winning the next tribute and hopefully gaining back a lot of what they've lost.
Yeah, I was mentioning the decision to get the Bruiser camp by Gooses because I kind of think they want to keep the tributes handily in their favor throughout this game, because I worry that even one curse for the side of BeefBois would almost wipe out a ton of structures, or at least the entire structure advantage they currently have. The Gooses have.
Duck's aggressive positioning being scouted out by the Hanzo. One interesting thing is that as long as Tricky Gooses is able to push these lanes out, if BeefBois do end up securing a curse, it's not going to get a ton of value because they have to have their waves make their way all the way across the map to get to the front walls of their forts. So picking up the aggressive Bruiser with 16 talent tier advantages, and then potentially, we'll see, looking to... Nope, it looks like they're rotating. Thought they might leave the Sylvanas bot lane just to threaten the keep. Say, hey, you're going to get a curse, but your lanes are pushed in, and we're going to take a keep if you do it. So we'll see what that play is. Yeah. Sylvan actually backing out.
Yeah, Sylvanas getting that one-way bottom, though, guarantees that it's either a choice that BeefBois have to make between getting curse, or defending curse, or tribute in this case, or losing bottom keep, which a full wave and siege camp was guaranteed to do.
Yeah, Owl taking out half of Lucio's life. Just the Owl build getting a ton of damage on this map as you're just throwing him across the map. Now it's damage that Lucio is just going to heal, but it gives you vision, and it's constantly using mana the whole time. Pops his big heal and kind of steadies that again for that curse going over to the side of, or tribute rather, going over to the side of Tricky Gooses.
We do have equal talent tier advantage, which is the first time we've had that in a little while, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But we do have Goose is fully positioned right up to the keep wall here. Are they tempting fate? There's not much else to do on the map right now, though, other than posture. But they are still kind of hanging around, putting a kind of never-ending threat onto BeefBois, kind of forcing them to stay within their keep walls.
Yeah, I like this. This positioning bottom lane is doing the same thing. They see tributes top. They know that if we threaten bottom, then it's going to put them in a bad position to rotate up. Now, they do have 2 globals, but that positioning is great. ETC power slides in. Dragon Arrow is going out, but it's on the unstoppable on the... Okay, APOC goes out. It's not going to stun a bunch. They have a couple people in wall, but it ends up being Kel'Thas that dies. Birdie's being pushed away, but the rest of the time you have a Grey Man on your back line. That's not ideal. Power slide out on the ETC. Wise super low. He ends up dying, but the rest of their team's so low, and the Owl goes out, and it's slowing them, and it hurts them really bad. And then, ooh, Grey Man is able to secure and wrap up those kills with the Diablo's help. Looks like Lucio's trying to get away. Can he actually do it? It looks like he can. So this will be at least another tribute, potentially a keep for the side of Tricky Gooses, but it doesn't look like they're actually going for that keep, so we'll see.
No, I think they're going tribute boss play, which I think is the safe play, but also it might end up getting a top keep anyways. So you're kind of denying the boss on the map, but you're getting top keep, which you already would have got to keep with this numbers advantage, and you get another tribute. So I think it's the safe play, which is something they might... it's something I think they need right now, because I think Gooses has an up-tempo, aggressive playstyle, which can kind of hurt them in later game when the stakes are a bit higher.
Yeah, they definitely made the play. They're sort of like, all right, we got 3 kills. We're going to go for the double boss instead of the free keep. Now, bottom keep's going to take a lot of damage with the 2 katas. Don't know that Dahak will be able to clear it in time. Looks like he might be able... No, I don't think he will. Those 2 katas just doing so much damage.
So one small observation I made as BeefBois tried to pick a fight equal talent tier there is that I don't think BeefBois have a team that's really designed to like charge into Gooses, because they kind of charge their Gooses and Gooses kind of counterattack.
Well, just the miss on the arrow.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. Their design is their team should be counter-engaging, and they should be letting Tricky engage on them. Fortunately, that's just not working out as KT goes down, and it looks like Lucio is also going down. Hanzo has to use his leap out. And Deus is like, I'm trying to get their backline, guys, but it's just not working. Dirk just going to die on the Lucio as he tries to make it out the back way. Greymane going in, dives aggressively. This might be game for Tricky Gooses against BeefBois game 1.
I'm going to call it my shot. I'm going to say GG, as it is a 66% health boss with 4 dead on the side of BeefBois, so not much to defend the core here.
Diablo's dive in the flip, and the Owl kills the ETC in the last second.
That's just punishment at the end of the duck there. Onto the last kill. I
said GG.
That's game 1, which will be the Goose's first win of the season. So I'm sure that feels good to get the monkey off their back there.
Yeah, it's got to feel good, and it's against a really strong team, so they're definitely making a statement tonight. And BeefBois playing really well, but at the end of the day, it just seems like their comp was a little less executable. They weren't able to take their win strategy and really turn it on as they progressed, or at least were never given the opportunity to by Tricky Gooses. And that's a strategy I think you see a lot more on Cursed Hollow recently, which is, I know this is a macro map, but let's take a comp that can clear camps, and then let's play a really aggressive team fight game, win the first 3 objectives, and then create a lead that the other team just can't overcome. If the other team is too big in a deficit, then that's just something they can't come back from, regardless of their macro presence. And I think that's what they pull off.
Yeah, I really liked BeefBois' team comp. If they could get to an objective on time, be there, poking with the Hanzo, forcing Gooses to engage onto them, and then just burning them with damage and sustain. But once they lost all those first 3 tribs, they were constantly clearing waves, getting there late to objective because they had no choice but to show up late. Because they were clearing waves, and that just played more and more into Goose's favor, and so Gooses had a good ability to just kind of build on their lead, and really BeefBois had no window back into that game.
Yeah, absolutely. What I would have really liked to see there from the side of BeefBois is more of a poke comp that they were actually trying to execute on. They had the ability to do that with the Hanzo. I would have liked to see maybe a Chromie or a Li Ming from Root Beer Guy instead of the Kael'thas, because I think it sets up that poke a little bit better. And then really just go for a delay and let the Dehaka and eventually the ETC get a lot more value in those off lanes to try to make up for the fact that their team fight's not as strong in that mid game as it moves into late game.
Alright, just waiting on word from the 2 teams on where they're going to next. Wonder if BeefBois will try and kind of get Gooses away from the macro maps into more of a team fight map, which is one the games I did watch of them, and I think I casted them against BeefBois against Wholesome Halfwits. They kind of really won when they were kind of allowed to pick a team fight comp on a team fight map and really focus on brawling over long periods of time.
Yeah. Definitely.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, they definitely pick characters that make sense for long, sustained team fights. But Tricky Gooses was like, we're not going to give you a long fight. We're going to try to end this as quickly as possible. Which, to be fair to BeefBois, the meta has shifted to those long, sustained fights. But if you can still execute a burst comp, then you have to play around that. You can't try to make the meta the game if the game's changed around you.
Alright, as we get into game here, we're going to Infernal Shrines. BeefBois electing for the first pick after losing, and Gooses with the map pick going to Infernal Shrines. Let me just put that into my system here.
Just to talk a little bit about stats while you do that, Infernal Shrines was a very popular, it's a very popular map overall. I think it's the most picked map in NGS, but it's one that Tricky Gooses have played a lot last season. Not knowing a ton of data about BeefBois, I can't really speak to that as much, other than the fact that they have gone to Infernal once so far this season and won that game. So we'll see what they try to bring out here. A lot of times they've gone for late game characters. They like characters like Thrall. They like characters like Ana, Raynor. They've played some Anubarak, some Blaze, some Diablo, and etc. So I think we can see a wide variety of strategies coming out here in the draft, just kind of depending on what they feel like need to exploit with the opposite team.
Yeah, I think this does, Infernal Shrines does play a little bit into what I was just talking about, what BeefBois might want with a kind of more sustained brawly team objective in which you have to collect 30 different monkeys to win over a Punisher. We get readies from both sides. I'm gonna say we're ready. But I think, obviously, I don't know if I remember seeing a game from Gooses playing on Infernal. I'm sure they have before, considering how popular it is. But it also, you know, the Gooses' reputation from last season, Season 9, in Division B East, was that they were kind of the meme team. They would pull weird stuff out. And I find Infernal Shrines actually lends itself least of almost all the maps to pulling out weird stuff. So we might not see that here in this game, although they could prove me wrong.
The weird stuff could just be a little bit different. I know they have done some things like Butcher on this map, and then maybe they've pulled out Kerrigan a few times with a main tank Kerrigan, potentially with an Uther backup. So there's a couple different options for some interesting things they could do. I'm interested to see if these the tanks get banned out now. I think they BeefBois struggled against Diablo last game, so we might see some more respect there over the Cho'Gall or the Diva, which they banned against Tricky Gooses last time.
Important to note, too, that Joanna's completely fallen off the meta, in my opinion, among main tanks. But I would say this is one of the maps where that might be an exception, just because fighting on the Shrine with the amount of AoE cleared that she has, and the, what's it, level 7 cooldown reduction on the amount of minions you condemn, or the amount of targets you condemn, makes her really strong on this objective. So I think she's a factor as well.
Absolutely. Tehran getting that respect. They're like, nah, no owls today. I think the Lucio is especially feeling the pain as well as the tank. So they went ahead and nipped that in the bud. And Mephisto ban still coming out from Tricky Gooses. They've seen it played a couple times by Beefbois. Don't want to deal with that really good team fight presence. And he's a mage that lends itself to long, sustained team fights, which is not what they want to give. So we'll see what the second ban is. Is it going to be one of their previous two, or is it going to be the Diablo? Still the Diva. All right, so we'll see a meta tank here. I don't know which one it'll be. Maybe they want the Diablo. They get first pick. So
yeah, I would definitely say not banning both meta tanks is the advantage to the first team because they get to pick between the two.
No Diablo. Tricky Gooses says, like, if we can't play him, you can't play him. But that could mean ETC. So there you go.
It does give them ETC probably, but if Gooses is going something weird here, then they don't need a traditional main tank, then they may be happy to just get the Diablo out of there.
Totally.
Which they're most concerned about, obviously.
I know.
Ooh.
Wow.
Did
That's
not
ballsy.
expect that.
Tricky Gooses is instantly thinking right now. Are they going Cho'Gall? What are they doing?
So this is a nobody wants ETC party right now going on between the two teams, which is interesting. Anna is a bold first pick. I know she's quite loved in organized play for her healing reduction and her long sustain healing. But it does give Gooses an opportunity to pick something like Zeratul and just terrorize the backline with that.
Yeah. They've tipped their hand as to the type of healing that BeefBois is going to have, so is Tricky Gooses. Now they've shown all of their damage, which, to be honest, is the strategy I don't see very often. I don't see all the healers and all the damage picked up in the first three picks of the game on either side, because it gives a lot of information as to what tanks you need to mitigate that damage and what kind of team comp you need to structure in order to achieve that. Chromie is a little weak against Zeratul, but has a lot of freeze abilities and time stops and those kind of things. So you might see, depending on the skill cap level, the ability to outmaneuver Zeratul a lot. So I would have actually liked to see the Kel'Thas here maybe a little bit more, like on the Shrine with the W bomb clear on the minions, as well as the mana addict shield to save from Zeratul. But I think I love Chromie. Chromie's super strong right now.
ETC finally getting the respect he deserves. He was ignored through just over the halfway point of this draft, which is interesting. Almost all the major main tanks banned out except Joanna, as I mentioned earlier. We'll see what happens here. I do find it interesting that they've shown Anna and Chromie and Reyna all as a very quite squishy backline, so they're going to need a beefy front line to be able to defend them properly.
This is interesting. Tyrael pickup, definitely a dive tank, so they're going full aggression. Let's get rid of the Ana, let's get rid of the Chromie. They've left out one melee pickup. They could pick up an aggressive melee DPS, or they could pick up someone a little bit safer and protect the Jaina. But on the side of BeefBois, you got a tank and a soul laner pickup here. What are they going to do? All right.
I was actually thinking about Sonya for Tricky Gooses. In the couple of games I've watched so far this season on Infernal Shrines, I've seen Sonya honestly first picked or second picked by a lot of teams just because the value she has on objective, constantly getting sustained off of the little monkeys. And Joanna, like I mentioned earlier, is also really good on this map. So I think that's the best frontline BeefBois had available left at this point in the draft.
And there's the Butcher for the last pickup. I think we'll definitely see some switcheroonies here. I think Birdie plays the Butcher. Yep, Birdie's playing the Butcher, Nani's playing the Zeratul, and then Jaina's being played by Wise, probably as a solo laner, rotating as a 4-man for the rest. And looks like everyone stayed the same for the most part on the side of BeefBois.
I was holding my breath for the Butcher. We do get something weird.
I said it earlier.
I know.
I was like, it's Kerrigan or Butcher, I think.
Which explains why the interesting bans early and why we couldn't understand nobody was racing to pick tanks. Because clearly Gooses had this plan all along, and they had no interest in the main tanks because they knew they were picking Tyrael for the setup and Butcher for their kind of bruiser role.
Honestly, with this comp, I think it's whoever can blow up one of the members of the other team first, because Sonya has really no CC to keep her from just spinning. She's going to spin to win against the other team all day long. She's just going to heal, she's going to damage, she's going to do the whole thing. And so I don't think Sonya's worried unless Tricky Gooses kills some of the other team members with their super aggressive dive comp, and then immediately turn around to focus her, and she's outnumbered. So this will be an interesting game for sure.
Alright, I'm going to introduce the side of the Tricky Gooses with Nanani on the Zeratul, Wise on the Jaina, Duck on the Tyrael, Birdie on the Butcher, and Carpe Diem on the Anduin. We have the Tricky Gooses with their meme team.
Great, and on the blue team side, we have BeefBois looking to come back in this game, make it a 3-game series with Root Beer Guy on the Chromie, Durkadurk on the Ana, Tribulation playing Johanna, Dazed playing Sonya, and Smork Killer playing Raynor. Well, Jimmy right click.
Alright, unless Gooses is killing someone named Anna and Chromie, and to a lesser extent Raynor, I don't think they win a team fight unless you see one of those 3 people die in the first 5 to 10 seconds.
Yeah.
I think they will lose the team fight if they are unable to get that kill early. So we'll really see if they're able to get those picks early game.
Follow up route by the Anduin. We see the Unstoppable come out by Dazed. That's pretty early use. Doesn't have it for another 5 minutes, so just going to go out. They're going to keep Zera in the off lane, which makes a lot more sense in retrospect. They're going to want the burst blow up by the Jaina. And Zeratul has really great wave clear. He can double soak pretty decently. He can move around really fluidly, and he can also threaten a lot of characters in a burst way. As he's being rotated, he's just going to teleport out.
I was just about to say how hard to gank Zeratul was, and then he got a bunch of his health chunked, but I still hold by the statement that he's hard to finish off completely.
Didn't get ganked though.
Double soaker, yeah.
We see W build coming out from Chromie as well as Andorol Anomaly, which is the multiple time traps. So she's really going to try to set up a little fortress of solitude for herself, and then run to one of her time traps when Zera tries to eat her lunch later games. So probably pretty smart. W build is strong, even though they nerfed it. So we'll see what happens here. Birdie getting caught a little bit out of position, charges way outside, and then Chromie doing some damage, but not really any of it landing, because no stacks on W yet.
I know you'll have some comments on Reyna's first level talent, based on what I'm allowed to go as the offlane Reyna on our team.
I think you get way more consistent value. They're looking for a team fight here. It's actually being completely stopped, so I'll keep talking about it. Ace in the hole pickup from Raynor wants to do that extra damage. I don't think he's going to get consistent value. He will get then if he went Exterminator. But they're worried about their damage output, which totally makes sense. Exterminator Raynor really only gets a ton of damage late game when he's able to pick the execute talent. So I think the team wants the early kills. Like I said, this is going to come down to who can burst a hero down quickest and then take that team fight advantage and turn it into a team fight win. Because these team fights are not going to go long. You're going to know real quick whether or not this is going to work out for either team.
Which also makes Johanna a good pick because, you know, with her trait talent, Unstoppable, and the shield, I think she's going to be a really hard tank to pick throughout this game. Kind of forcing it to be a backline character. Or Sonya if she's really overextended.
See BeefBois showing up early to this objective. They're going to go ahead and get about a 15 minion lead before Tricky Gooses even decides that, you know, hey, this is something we want to do. You see the time traps set up pretty aggressively, one on each of the ways in, and then on the backside. Some damage being put out, really backing up the side of BeefBois. But they still got a lot of poke with the Chromie and trying to... there goes the time trap. Really no value, no setup. As you see Zeratul back on the Ana, but taking half his damage and then backing out. Birdie's going in, but is going to have to back up pretty quickly. Johanna's pretty low, but she's going to survive. And Nani's like, sorry guys, I have to leave and tap before I can re-engage. Tricky Gooses knows, hey, they've got 30, we're not going to win this. Let's go ahead and back off. Let's send Zeratul top to clear, and then let's position to defend. Try to get a little bit of soak, get ahead in XP, and then we'll win this game later when we get Butcher turned on.
Yeah, I kind of really like that decision. I was thinking as Gooses was going in there that worst thing they could do is really sell out for a pick, wipe, the other team gets objective, and it really starts to snowball on them because it's going to take a while for this Gooses build or this Gooses team comp to turn online. And I think level 10 is the first time they'll actually be able to start securing kills. So they want to limit the amount of macro damage that gets done in that time period. And objective really quite weak on this map. Even though it's going to get a fort here, it's not the end of the world for Gooses. And they didn't lose any XP in this trade, even if they lost the fort.
Yeah, it's bad for them trying to stay ahead. It's going to set up an easier time for BeefBois to just say, hey, let's coax out these objectives as long as possible and let bottom lane get some value. However, from the side of Tricky, it's going to push the lane in closer to Butcher, allow him to stack earlier. He's around 65 stacks right now, so a little ways off, but it's definitely looking like he'll get it. He plays pretty safe.
Yeah, it's not in a bad spot because once you get level 10, you'll be at around 80 meat, and then you just need a couple kills to really turn it on, which depending on what ults they go, I assume we're going to see something like Lamb with Nanani on the... why am I forgetting the name of that? The Stasis ult.
Void Prism.
Void Prism. With the Ring. So that's a lot of burst ults right there that kind of really set up for nice wombo combos.
Totally. But let's talk about BeefBois' win condition. So Chromie went the Mobius Loop on her W at 7, which provides a really nice 60% slow for people hit in the center of the Dragon's Breath, as well as extra damage. Looks like we got a
pause here. I
pause
wasn't
out.
sure if I was responsible because I'm a referee or not, but it doesn't
go
look
ahead
like
and
they...
switch the screen over if you can.
You want to look at talents?
Yeah. Just don't want to show where everyone is.
Right. My bad.
Yeah. No worries. But yeah, I'll keep talking about the talents. I've got them pulled up so I can speak to it. You have the W build coming out. That's going to provide constant slows, which turns on the Raynor. Ana's also going full sleep build, which also slows characters. The Johanna going the subdue, which slows everyone. And then you have Sonya once again going the spinning talents. She didn't even have to go the slow cleanse because, hey, you don't have a ton to worry about. You have Jaina, but I'm not moving around very much when I'm sitting on the shrine. So what are we looking at? Oh yeah, starting back in.
So it took me a bit longer than extra because I wanted to make sure I wasn't showing off any of the positions there. So that's why it's the long delay. And they were screaming at me to unpause it.
We want to play. Come on. No, so I think all that to say, I think what they're trying to do is set as many slows as possible, let Raynor get as much damage out as he possibly can, while also continuing to throw sand at him from that Chromie, as long as with that bottom lane pushing out, while top lane, really aggressive moves by Tricky.
Yeah, we'll see with the ults if it's enough to really slow down the combo of Gooses. We have Chromie's slow ult, so obviously they're completely giving up on the hope of picking someone with the other time loop ult.
Oh, dive in going by the Butcher, as well as a follow-up by the Tyrael and Lamb of the Slaughter. That was an excellent zoning Void Prism by Nani saying, hey, you're not getting to the Ana, she's ours. And that's exactly the team fight that Tricky uses once. Blow up the quick character as soon as possible, and then take immediate control of the map. Diving in on the Johanna, going really aggressive and just blowing her up. Birdie getting a lot of extra meat right there. As currently, he sits at 151 meat.
So yeah, it looks like level 10 was all they needed, and they really didn't lose much pre-10. So they're in a really good spot now. With not much the Ana can do to save herself. Honestly, they may not be able to step up past the halfway mark of this map until they actually secure kills. Because Ana caught with any distance behind her is probably going to get picked off between all of the combos that Gooses can pull off.
Literally the only value that the Ana could get is if they're coordinated enough to be near time traps with the Chromie, and Chromie saving her time traps to save the Ana. That's hard to execute, though, as you see a little bit of a duel happening between Daze and Nani in bottom lane.
Yep, obviously Daze trying to get some macro pressure, realizing this objective is lost. But Nani on Zeratul is not going to give up too much here. As the objective top looks like it's going to be converted with only 5 monkeys left for Gooses to collect.
See Hyperion coming out from Raynor. He's mostly a zoning. They've tried to push Gooses off. Interesting decision with only 4 left. Tricky is perfectly fine to wait just a second, even though that will allow Sonya to pick up this camp and have it pushing in lane while objective is pushing. However, I don't know that I would consider it a ton of value to use Hyperion for no kill and an objective you're not trying for.
And looks like Goose is here in no hurry to actually convert this objective. They're willing to just pause this out, which I don't know.
Oh, Raynor. Okay,
yeah,
he's fine.
I'm just wondering at this moment what value they're gonna look for right now, because they do have bot pushing the longer they stall this out, and they're gonna have to send someone bottom to clear that out.
Tyrell's just saying, all right, I'm just going to sit up here. We only have 1 lead. They're not going to go for it, so we're going to get as much value in other lanes as possible, clear the push that BeefBois has started to put in their lane, and get some value other places.
Good save there by Anduin to pull Birdie out, as he looked like he might have died. We're going to get a 5-man defense top here with a 4-man pushing it, so really seeing the value of that early fort kind of taking hold in these later game objectives.
It's like 4-on-4, diving on the Raynor. He's taking a ton of damage, but he's actually going to go in the just missing, but it doesn't matter. He dies anyway. Duck going to go down on Tyrael. Still going to explode on as many people as possible, reduce that cooldown by just a little bit, and they're still going to get the fort, it looks like. Maybe not. A lot of clear damage going out. And the Chromie, no fort for them.
You'll take those trades all day, because that actually secured the Butcher being turned on with his 200 meat.
True.
So now they're pretty much fully turned on. I don't think they're waiting for anything other than maybe Zeratul to scale a little bit more. But this is pretty much the comp as we see it, at least till level 20. So Goose is probably just going to rotate and look for picks all day.
Oh, they didn't find her. But they tried to. They knew she was there somewhere. Sonya getting out. Very, very nice escape on her behalf. Looking for an engage aggressive right here. There it goes on Chromie. Looks like she's stunned. Stasis goes out. Bad target to go for, especially when she has it. Root lands from the Anduin, and that's a kill. Ana in a super bad position. I'm sorry, your lunch. And she goes down to the Butcher as well. You can see Johanna being slowed, looking for the rotate there as well. He's got blocking field. It's going to come in behind. If you see it, too late. Just missed it. Potential kill there, but executed probably a little bit off from optimal.
We see a bit of a problem with choosing Chromie as your first target now. She does have... was that just a time trap, or was that her stasis?
That's Quantum Overdrive, yeah. Probably one of the best, or not Quantum Overdrive, Timeout. Probably one of the best stasises in the game, because most stasises are like 2.5 to 3 seconds. Nice pickup on Sonya, top lane, really aggressive. That fort's not going to protect you much, and they exploited that. But it's a 5-second timeout, so that'll outlast a lot of things. In the middle of a team fight, 5 seconds feels like an eternity. So you have to adjust to someone else, which is what they did. And then as soon as Chromie got back out and decided, hey, I got to leave, they killed her then.
Sonya finding out there that you cannot step up even to your own fort at this point against this team, which is quite scary. And honestly, I'm going to pull a caster trope here and ask, what can BeefBois do to get back in this game? Because it doesn't, even though they still technically equal in structures, like it doesn't seem like BeefBois has been in this game for about 5 minutes now.
Yeah, they need to see someone overextend. They're in a rough spot because they don't have a super clear win position. I think what I'd do is I'd say, all right, at this point, let's just counter push. Our bottom is really pushed out. Let's take a keep. We know the next objective is bottom. I would have just given top. I would push bottom really hard and taken that keep as best possible. They were able to coax Void Prism out, which is a win. They were able to save some ultimates, even though actually they used 3, so no ultimate save. I rescind my comment. More ultimates out by BeefBois. But yeah, what I would have done is I would have recognized, hey, objective's bottom lane. They're pushing top lane. Let's push bottom lane. Let's get that keep. Let's trade it for our top keep, and then try to coax this into a long fight. Because they don't have the best wave clear on the side of Tricky Gooses, and you have excellent poke and wave clear on the side of BeefBois. Nani rotating around the long way, the rest of the team looking from over this side. Seen a lot. Okay, there goes the initial dive. You're going to see and never use the stasis. Ends up using it after the fact. We see Ana diving immediately, dying to the land of the slaughter. Zeratul getting a lot of damage in the back line, teleporting back in. Ends up killing both of the back line, Chromie and Raynor. And it looks like Johanna is going to get out, but not without being chased by that pesky little elemental the entire rest of the way.
Really interesting switch up in how they did their combo there is they kind of used the Butcher as a fake out dive onto Chromie. Chromie goes into her stasis, but then Imperius actually used his ult, his charge.
Tyrael. Yeah.
Wrong. I always mess up the gods for some reason. He uses Judgment onto the Ana, and it's kind of a fake out because everyone thinks Chromie's going to be the target, and then Tyrael quickly makes Ana the target. And they just ripped her apart and then got Chromie out of the stasis.
Well, it's a great numbers game on the side of Tricky Gooses, because if you dive both of them, you can just pivot to whichever one is weaker when the dive lands. And that's exactly what they did. They get the objective and now they're pushing with it. Okay, here's another team fight. They're just going for it on the side of BeefBois. Hey, let's use a temporary respite in this Void Prism, although that's not going to last long. That's going away for them. They get out with only 1 death, and it's a trade 1-for-1, which is probably the best case that BeefBois could have hoped for at this point. Now they're going to reposition and look to defend this Immortal. However, at this point, Butcher is basically a main tank. They're charging against the Raynor. He is not safe. The sleep goes out, as well as no healing. Excellent save by Ana. Great save by Anduin as well. Almost dead Sonya, but she gets out, even with Land of the Slaughter used.
I like the decision, and if you've learned my macro sense by watching any of my casts, that I love to play safe in the second half of the game, but I think the way Gooses allows BeefBois back into this game is through overextending, especially after they've lost the Tyrael, and kind of giving unnecessary deaths over. If they force BeefBois, even at the halfway point of this map, because there's no structures behind them, they're really weak to that dive. So they can really kind of play this out through controlling all the camps on the map from now on and showing up on time for objective, forcing BeefBois to move away from their structures, giving the distance behind them that they can't run away to, and then using their ults to burst down Anna and Chromie, as we've seen.
You're absolutely right. I mean, it's definitely Tricky Goose's game to lose with the advantage they've played. I know they have a Butcher, but I think the smartest thing to do, they have 20s, so they can be aggressive, but eventually when 2020s hit, they're going to have to just probably back up and say, all right, we're just going to let our win carry us through the rest of this match. We have a great structure lead. Let's let our lanes push and provide value. We can stall till we see the exact play we want to make, and then we'll go for it.
Decision they're not going for is they kind of posture around this top keep here, although they haven't hard committed anything to it yet.
They know they have 20s. They're just seeing if they can make something go. We see the ult upgrade for Slaughterhouse on the Butcher. If he sees them grouping, they're going in. And we see the Elemental upgrade to mirror some of Jaina's abilities as well. So they're going for maximum AoE, just really trying to get as much value as possible with their Wombo combos. Upgrades to Tyrael's ultimate as well, reducing the cooldown, increasing the range. And then we see the Shadow Mending on the side of Zeratul, really giving that extra healing boost. And then second Leap of Faith for Anduin, deciding, hey, if people are going to get hurt, I'm going to save them. We don't want to lose any characters at this point.
Yeah, we see 2 siege camps picked up as those are going to pressure, and we're still half a level from level 20 on the side of BeefBois. As they're really going to have to wait this out for another minute or so.
Oh, Birdie goes in, kind of fakes out Carpe a little bit, and Carpe's like, all right, I'll give you a light bomb. But Birdie's like, no, actually, I don't want to go in. That looks a little scary. So they back right off.
Able to get some nice siege damage, get all the walls down on all the keeps, which is it's a slightly aggressive move, but it's relatively safe, considering BeefBois do not want to step up at this moment.
It's probably the best chance in the next 30 seconds that BeefBois have to engage with Light Bomb being down. It's not much, but it's something. The lanes are really pushed in, though, and they know they have to clear those as well as defend this objective, because this objective could potentially be win when you have John Cena on your side jumping you, as well as that kind of aggressive dive team hitting right for you. I don't know that I like a lot of BeefBois' positioning plays in a bunch of these objectives. When they had forts up, they should have been coming at objectives as close to their own fort wall as possible, so that they don't retreat down like mid-map jungling zone. They retreat back to their own walls, which can help give them an extra damage boost. Checking all those bushes as they look to engage on this objective. No idea Nani's there. Nani's like, haha, I see your Chromie. And there goes, they're all focusing the Sonya, who's far out of position. She gets blown up, and suddenly this is a 5v4 with BeefBois none the wiser.
Joanna getting burnt here as her D trait was already used. It's going to be a chase down at this point. Although the Gooses are a bit split, Birdie's just sitting back on the objective, finishing it off. Probably want to get a quick cap on it while there's still people down.
Yeah.
As Nani just chases down the rest of their team.
They know they have a 2 Leap of Faith. They're like, I'm going to go as aggressive as I can. They're like, all right, we're going to get top kind of by ourselves at this point, and we're definitely going to get mid. Potential win looking at beside Tricky Gooses for game 2 of this series.
I'm not going to call GG quite yet, although it's...
No. That's that could be it.
BeefBois may have been trying to prove me wrong there, as I wasn't going to call it. Although they're going for all keeps here, it looks like, or at least top keep.
This is a little suspect. It is definitely the safe play, but with so much health on this Immortal, yeah, Tricky Goose is like, you know what, we could try to end here, guys. This isn't.
You do have Butcher. If you just protect him and he whacks away, this core can melt pretty quickly.
That's true. It's looking to come up with his Slaughterhouse pretty soon. They've blocked out the Chromie. She just is going to stasis through it. They end up blowing up the Johanna. She's down. His core is at 60%. Nani's low. Duck's low. With 40% core, silence on the Sonya. They're going to re-engage, kill the Sonya, and then secure this win for game 2, taking the series domination. Nani really just coaxing this home, deciding to void the core and get the rest of the kills.
That's just mean.
Yeah. A little bit of grief.
Well, that is the set, as we see Gooses taking it 2-0, as I try to bring up the stat screen here.
really trying to make their name known in Division A East. No wins so far, but then coming in against one of the top teams of the season so far and just saying, hey, let's get a domination. It really looked like they did their homework. They watched against BeefBois. BeefBois executing fine. Like, they did a great job throughout the entire series. They did really good engages. They executed pretty clean, but they seem to have a little less of a plan that was really crystal clear in their head that Tricky Gooses came in with for both games.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much research BeefBois did, but they didn't seem quite prepared for the possibility of a Butcher comp, and it makes those early locks really, really clearly hurt them. The early lock of Chromie, Anna, and Raynor, which really set up the Butcher comp to be turned on because you have squishy, immobile targets that are just ready to be picked on.
That's right.
We have an interview with Duck. He is currently in the wrong Discord chat. So let me message him to go in the right one. Let's go to the NGS one.
Great.
Where should we go? So yeah, I don't have the standings quite on me of what that's going to do for the standing implications, but I know Gooses will be happy to get the first 2 wins of the season, and it happens to be in a domination. And so I have Duck joining me here, and how did that feel?
Felt good. I stopped trying to play to the meta and just played to our strengths, and I felt really good about our drafts. We got everything we wanted. It worked real well.
Great. Fel, do you have a question you want to throw at Duck?
Yeah, well, first let me say it definitely looked like you got everything you wanted. It really showed that you had clear plans going into both maps, and you executed on both of those cleanly. It looked like you'd done some degree of research to what BeefBois likes to do. You target banned them and kind of ignored a lot of the meta bans, which played in your favor as it kind of secured a meta picks for you in game 1, and then it doesn't even matter game 2. I guess my first question is for game 1. You picked up a high velocity camp clear team with a heavy team fight early. What was your strategy on that map?
Well, it was going to be Diablo force fights.
Mm-hmm.
If we liked what we saw after the Diablo, we were actually going to go into an Abathur comp with it and just push real aggressive for fights. It worked with what we saw to just rotate to a more normal comp. Getting Greymane and Leoric let us do whatever we wanted for wave clear. And then Sylvanas was just icing on the cake.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've seen you pull off a strategy which I've seen a lot more prevalently on Cursed Hollow, I think, as the meta has shifted, which is let's win the first 3 team fights around objectives, which ended up being the first 4. I think they picked up 1, but and then carrying that early objective with a better team fight comp into an early aggressive lead that they can't recover from. So that looked pretty cleanly done.
Absolutely. We just wanted to try to snowball it as quick as possible and not give them a chance to come back.
For sure.
Yeah, that's what it looked like happened. I have a quick question for game 2. They locked in an early Anna Chromie, and with that fact in place, was Butch always the plan, or was it, wow, look at that squishy backline, let's pivot to that? Or how?
Well, seeing their picks before, I've seen them go Anna a lot. I've seen them go Hanzo in on most of their games as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we were already planning to go in with Butcher. But when we saw them lock Anna and then Chromie and then Raynor as well, we're like, I don't care what front line they have. Like, as long as we can get rid of the Mei, like, let's just go. So I even pivoted to Tyrael and just went even more in on the dive.
Yeah, that was definitely interesting. I don't want to steal Fel's question here because we were also talking a lot about how the meta tanks in the ban phase was going. First game, both teams let the arguably 2 top tanks through in Diablo and ETC. Game 2, you guys ban out the Diablo, but ETC carries on for quite some time there into the draft. How what was your thinking going into the series, and how did it change going into Game 2 based on how those bans went down?
If ETC wasn't banned in that third phase, I was locking him. So they did the right thing. We were shocked it made it that far too. So I was just kind of curious what they'd ban. At that point, I mean, I still had multiple options of characters I wanted. I like for all-in dives, I like the Tyrael, I like the Anub'arak. So you can only medallion one thing. That's the rule of thumb now for what I'm going to play as tanks. You can only medallion once.
Yeah, we saw a lot of plays where you would dive separate characters, the Butcher on one and then Tyrael on the other. Was that just like, we're going to dive both and then pivot to the one that's lower? Or was it, we think they're going to use everything on one character before we dive and stagger them a little bit? What was the strategy there engaging on that team?
Sometimes it was if we already knew a medallion was down. Like the Anna, we knew medallion was down, so she can't get out of it, so there's no point in trying to stack up the CC. So then we split it to somebody else. And a lot of times I could dive somebody and Birdie could dive somebody else with Butcher and then drop the Lamb on my target. And then we could just turn and kill whatever one was the lowest. And it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, it did. As you look to the coming weeks, are there any matchups that you're really excited to see or think are going to be really tough moving forward?
I'm excited for everybody. I mean, we got moved up here with you guys as well, so it's all a new experience, all learning. Those first 2 weeks were, I think, over trying to compensate for it, and just said, screw it, we're going to go the way we normally play and just do what we do.
Well, you definitely did what you did, and it worked out, so good on you.
Yeah, congratulations on your 2 wins. That you definitely looked like peak form DIV Gooses there in that second game. So I'm hoping there's more. I'm hoping there's more games like it. Definitely fun games to cast. Lots to talk about during those types of games. So I'm gonna give you one last chance for shoutouts, and then we'll end the stream.
Shoutouts to BeefBois. They came in here new as well and took 2 week 1, week 2 wins. So good job on them. Great games versus us. Shout out to Tiny Dancers as a whole. You guys always help us practice, whether or not it's us joining you guys to play or playing against us in scrims. It helps us a lot. And then shout out to you guys for casting.
All right. Well, thanks.
Thanks
for the shout out, and good luck next time in your next game. This has been another episode of Canadian Corner. This time I'm joined by my American correspondent here, Feldroff. Hopefully more casts in the future as well. We'll get him a icon, or maybe get his cam up next time. Fel, I'll let you have the last word.
Word.
All right.
No, thanks everybody. Bye. Good night.
All right. See ya.